Welcome to the Bluegrass Blues podcast, episode 22. I'm Amy.
And I'm Jesse. Looks like we're at war. That came as a surprise to everyone because we didn't know if something was worth going to war for recently. And it's sort of like a continuation of the wars that we're ending up in. Like, we didn't expect Venezuela, and now we were in Iran. Iran. So what's going on?
Distracting from the Epstein files much?
Well, but their argument is that this is Trump's argument, that we're invading Iran or we're bombing Iran because we want to protect the Iranian people. They're in discontent.
Mm-hmm.
And
then we kill 60 schoolgirls in a school during the bombing?
In Iran?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we did that, but we also killed Iran's leader. Mm-hmm. So that's like a political assassination that's taken place.
Mm-hmm.
And, the usual suspects are saying, yes, we're supposed to do this because we're defending whatever. But it does come down to, there are two leaders who are responsible for this, Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu.
Right.
And we all know that if they hadn't been elected in the last elections for both of them, they would both be in jail because they were convicted of various crimes. So there's that element to it.
Stay out of jail card?
Well, it's not
bomb other countries?
Well, that's what they're doing because it keeps them. There's this belief throughout American history that whenever we go to war or wherever we're in a military conflict, everybody's supposed to rally behind the leader. That's just, if you don't do it, you're a traitor or whatever. And that was very prominent during the Bush administration. When we went into the second Bush administration, we went into Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
The first Bush administration, we were prepared for it because there was like a lead up to all of the reasons that we're doing, because Iran had invaded Kuwait. That was a threat to essentially to the global oil markets, and that was something that could not be tolerated. Iraq had invaded Kuwait.
Right.
So we were ready for that with George Bush number one. George Bush number two, that was sort of like a staged event because
9/11.
9/11. Although Iran had nothing to do with 9/11, it was totally Saudi Arabia because that's where Osama bin Laden's from. But Saudi Arabia has more money, and Bush II was in cahoots with Saudi Arabia as well as Dick Cheney because there were more contracts to be made on oil with that. And we remember Halliburton getting these great deals to go in and redo the Iraq economy, redo the Iraq infrastructure. But that was Dick Cheney's company making a lot of money. And Dick Cheney said, well, I don't have any financial interest in this, which is bullshit because he had his money in a private, like, what do you call these things? The blind trust.
Oh, yeah.
The blind trust.
Yeah.
And but it was still his stock and his advantage that his organization got a lot of money that definitely trickled down to him. But given all that, I wouldn't say that George Bush was in it for the money because he was actually like doing something. He was essentially going after Hussein because Hussein had threatened to kill his father because that was the representation of the first Iraq war. And now we had incidents while Obama was president and while Biden was president where there were bombing runs on countries. But again, we were always prepared for these because there was sort of like a build-up to the attack. You get the idea out there first. You get Congress to talk about it. Congress will debate. Mm-hmm. And then when Congress says, okay, it's cool to do, and when you alert people, then we did it. And everybody was behind it. Well, everybody, the structure, the infrastructure was there that normally supported it, even if there were people who didn't think it was necessary to go to war with Iraq, which a lot of people didn't think. But it was still something that we were prepared for. It was a build-up. There was a result. We all knew it was happening. There was a definite explanation why. now, in this administration, we're just going into countries. It's just, we're going into Venezuela for what reason?
Oil.
Well, their reason was that they were protecting the Americans from drug traders in Venezuela, even though the drugs they were talking about weren't coming from Venezuela, they were coming from somewhere else. And there was no way that when they're bombing boats in Venezuela, that those boats could have made it up to the United States, given the routes they were saying. So that was all a lie. It was just to get in there, take over the country, get the oil. Now we're in Iran. What's Iran got that we were interested in?
Oil.
Oil?
Yeah.
Yeah, so more oil.
Mm-hmm.
That means that the oil industry makes a lot of money. People investing in the oil industry make a lot of money. Plus, Donald Trump makes a lot of money because not only that, there's all these, he's got all the money coming from the various corporate billionaires who are going to fund everything he does. And
the princes in Saudi Arabia and other wealthy
right.
Middle Eastern countries.
Plus, the Trump boys are in charge of this, this site that takes bets on global events. And I was reading today that someone made $500,000 betting that the United States would kill the leader of Iran, which implies that there was this information going out ahead of time. So that means that someone within the Trump administration is benefiting from the war, not because they care about democracy or they care about human rights or they care about protecting people or even the argument that they're protecting Israel. It's really about the money. And so we have all these lists of things that are happening right now. There's plenty of money involved. And because it's another oil site to attack, that means more money will be coming in there, more money for the Bush, or not for the Bush, for the Trump coffers.
And just like the lies about the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, Iran does not have a nuclear warhead. They do not have nuclear capability.
But the argument has been that they're building a nuclear weapon, which you can say for every country in the world. That's like, you think North Korea has nuclear weapons? You think they're building them? Are we going to bomb them? No. Because Trump and Kim Jong-il are like, what is it? Kim? Who's the new leader of North Korea? I've lost track. Anyway, Kim Jong-un. So, they're in buddy situations. Trump is in bed with Putin because obviously Putin has garbage on him. And this is just another money grab that doesn't, let's go to the horror of this. It isn't about protecting people.
No.
It's about creating suffering, because if this administration cared about the people of Iran, and I think I'm preaching too much here, but if they cared about people and cared about their rights and cared about all the stuff that they say they care about, then this administration would not be persecuting immigrants in this country.
Right.
They wouldn't be putting people in concentration camps. They wouldn't have masked vigilantes, which is what they are, running through the streets, just seizing people, going into churches, going into schools, going into hospitals, going
not to
into
mention
courtrooms.
Child rapists.
That's whole other aspect of this. Like we're going through all the bad stuff they're doing, but the other part of this is that what was in the news before the Iran attack, and it was
the State of the Union was right before the Iran attack. Of course, it wasn't mentioned at all.
Right. Well, yeah, he didn't say even then in the State of the Union address, even in past things, the president would say something if there was some major address when he was planning some kind of military action, just to get people prepared for it. And this came out of nowhere. So, I
want to just dovetail on what you said. So, again, what is happening here in this country? Human rights are being violated every single day. This is not about protecting Iranians' human rights. Plus, in Israel as well, the Gazans continue to be under-sheltered, underfed, under-medicated, under-educated. And settlers, Jewish settlers in Israel continue to be attacking Palestinians and taking their land away and bulldozing their olive groves and things like that. So, if we were modeling this terrific behavior, maybe there'd be, yes, let's spread democracy around the world. But no, that's not it at all.
No, it's a lot about who's making money, who's making more money, and it is the idea that Donald Trump is doing this to distract from the thing that is going to put him in jail. And I really believe the Epstein files is going to put him in jail at some point, because the things that we are constantly hear coming out of this are horrendous. They're, the fact that the Prince Edward, Prince Andrew.
He's not a prince anymore.
Yeah, he's Andrew Mountbatten, whatever, Windsor, and his wife Fergie. They're like in complete scandals. The other countries are actually dealing with the evils of the Epstein files because people are being arrested overseas. But here in the United States, when the Epstein files is raised as a congressional issue, the the Attorney General comes in front of Congress and says nothing about the victims, because the victims are standing right behind her. She's talking about the Dow Industrials being above $50,000. And she said $50,000, which, if you know anything about the stock market, it's not in dollars, it's in points. So, number one, she's proved she's an idiot. Number two, she's proved that she doesn't know what she's talking about. And number three, she's just a flat out
she's a murderer.
She's a shill for Donald Trump. So
for sure,
we've got all this going on, and we're now at war, and
our institutions are failing us, Jesse.
Yes.
I mean, how important is it for us to have free and fair elections this November for things to turn around?
Well, this is the other issue. I guess we can. I don't know if we should transition to that now.
But I actually want to speak a little bit more about the Iran war, just as a Jewish person. I helped form a group called Jewish Louisvillians for Peace, and we issued a press release on these attacks. And, we are against these attacks on Iran. And for sure, this is not good for Jews in the diaspora or in Israel. And many Jews in Israel are opposed to Netanyahu's war machine and are very much opposed to this attack in Iran. And to be sure, the Iranian regime is brutal and oppressive and criminal.
Yes. Yeah.
But the notion, again, this colonial notion that powerful outsiders can invade and bomb their way to peace, comes from a hubris that's determined to repeat history's deadliest mistakes rather than learning from them. And it doesn't keep any of us safer. It harms us. It makes us less safe. So the wars have got to end. Netanyahu's got to go, and Trump's got to go.
But as we all know, that they're doing everything they can to stay in power. So they're creating these
bomb their way to keep power.
Right. Well, you put the population in this state of panic. Essentially, you're trying to convince people that their lives depend on whatever they're doing, when in fact it's more the billionaire bank accounts that depend on what they're doing.
Right.
So we're at war. I mean, we're at war in Venezuela. We're at war in Iran. There's talk now about going to war with Cuba. I mean, where did that come from? Cuba's been that island since the 60s. It's been an annoyance. But are we under any threat from Cuba? No. I mean, we were in the 1960s when Kennedy was president and the Soviets were putting nuclear missiles there. But that's not an issue anymore because Cuba can't attack us. They're not going to attack us. But because we need a distraction on the executive level of this government, because if we don't distract, then people will focus on the real crimes of this administration. Then we're just going to keep experiencing this. Like will get more and more ridiculous. We will probably go into Cuba. We're talking about going into Greenland. I mean, right. Greenland?
Right.
What the hell?
Yeah.
It's just, it's all it's all distractions because we have a person.
We have child rapists
Right.
and criminals, convicted felons on a number of fronts, unconstitutional actors running this country.
Right, and the sad thing is that they were elected by the American people.
Yeah.
And I keep harping on this, but I still don't know how he won the last election, given that when he was president the first time, everybody who voted in the second election was alive when he was president the first time, and everybody saw how bad things were then. But because we have to say it, because we're in a land where racism predominates, it was either let's vote for the white convicted pedophile, sex offender, rapist, swindler, fraud, whatever you can say, or let's vote for the black woman attorney general who puts all that list of criminals into jail. And the American people decided, I'm going to go back, but
Yeah.
the American people decided that we're going to go with the rapists.
Mm-hmm.
That's the bottom line. And the thing about the phrase "the American people," whenever I see that, I think it means white people. I don't think whenever you see the media say anything about the American people that they're talking about minorities at all. They're talking about white people. So we're just stuck with this situation, and we have to see what happens as the elections keep going. So
And the white people, the older white people that continue to profit off of this oppressive, inequitable system, they want to reduce the people. The demographics are browning in America, so they want to make sure that these people are not even alive here,
Right.
and certainly not able to vote.
Right. Well, they went for that whole great replacement theory that was really big with the bigot Charlie Kirk,
Yeah.
and the bigot who's the guy on TV, the smug guy on TV. I forget his name. Tucker Carlson.
Oh, yeah.
So we have been subjected to this parade of racism on the media level, on the federal level, and it's now going to the state level because now we have. Should we talk about elections now?
Yeah, well, first of all, we were talking about the folks in Congress that are against this attack on Iran, and Thomas Massey comes up again, and of course Rand Paul, as well as Morgan McGarvey, the only Democrat in Congress in Kentucky.
Who,
What do you have?
in my opinion, doesn't count. I don't, McGarvey, yes, you can expect him to do that, but McGarvey's already shown that he's not going to defend people. He's not going to defend the community here because passing that resolution in favor of Charlie Kirk, that just did it for me as far as he's concerned. He already showed what his colors are. He didn't do anything to take that vote back. He's like going into black communities and in whispered tones saying, I really didn't mean it, so don't get mad at me for it. But he's going to do the basic line. And what I'll say that Thomas Massey had the greatest line on this, because when he was asked about it, he not only said that he was against what was going on, but he said, where is it? He said something along the lines of, no matter what happens, the bottom line is that it's Trump's illegal war. And his quote
illegal
was,
war.
Yeah, his illegal war. And
illegal war.
On Sunday, Massey put this post on X that said, bombing a country on the other side of the globe won't make the Epstein files go away any more than the Dow going above 50,000 will. So, it's Massey understands what's going on here. And I think Rand Paul also Rand Paul actually had a very eloquent statement on this, because he talked about American history and the reasons why we do these things. Of course, Mitch McConnell's just a weasel, and he's a weasel that's out of office. But, McConnell is for the attack.
Well, and I loved what Rand Paul said. Again, I don't love Rand Paul, but my oath of office is to the Constitution, so with studied care, I must oppose another presidential war.
Right. But
where are all the other Republicans?
Well, the person who's running for governor, Andy Barr, fully stands behind Trump. Both his opponents stand behind Trump. So, there are only three people.
Andy's running for U.S. Senate. Andy Barr.
Andy, yeah.
He's running not for governor, but
I'm
for
sorry,
Mitch's
yeah,
seat.
yeah. I'm
That's okay.
getting my guys confused. And you got these Senate candidates who are just towing the line because they think MAGA is still a thing, and they're probably right that MAGA is still a thing in Kentucky. I think I saw something recently where Trump's approval rating is still very close to 50% in this state, which, again, for a state that's going through the economic disaster that we're going through, is a real problem. So we've got, every week I keep saying I don't like Massey in general, but if it were me, if I had to vote between Massey and anybody else in the Republican Party, I would vote for Massey.
Right.
And I don't like Rand Paul either, because I've actually in the past been on campaigns against him, like calling voters and working for the Democrats. But if it's a choice between him or any of the people running for the Senate seat currently, I would vote for Rand Paul.
And when you do reach out to Rand Paul with your 5 calls app or emails, but especially calling, at least they take your message and at least they respond. I mean, with McConnell's office, you can't even leave a message anymore. What kind of representation is that?
Yeah, it's just we're just having to deal with so many things these days, and it really is getting frustrating. But we're now in the election season. We've got Rand Paul and Massey doing what is the right thing, and they're not going to change their tone about what's going on. But the issue is that they actually believe in the government process, where things go through Congress and things go to there's discussion, advise and consent, that whole thing that's in the Constitution about what Congress's role is here. Our other Kentucky representatives in Congress are Republicans, are just, they're just lapdogs.
Yeah.
They don't care. They're just lapdogs, and they are, I don't know.
I wonder when these people are going to start to realize that they're on the wrong side of history.
Or that they're being played for suckers. Mm-hmm. I think that's more important. I think they would feel less bad about being on the wrong side of history than feel bad about being played for suckers.
Yeah, but they're all enriching themselves too. I mean, remember, Marjorie Taylor Greene left with what, 27 million after being in Congress. So this is a lucrative gig.
Right, even though it's like not supposed to be something that you make a fortune in, but that's not true, because Mitch McConnell made a fortune.
Yeah.
As a senator.
And can we pivot a little bit to, we're talking about money, and the state legislature has been in session. House Bill 500 is the 2-year state spending plan, and it's extraordinarily austere. It was approved on mostly party line vote, but basically it underfunds education and Medicaid, and could do a lot more for Kentuckians struggling with the cost of living. And we've quoted Jason Bailey before, the executive director of the Kentucky Center for Economic Policy. He says this austerity is not a necessity, it's a choice. So you have these people enriching themselves, Jesse, and yet the Kentucky, everyone in the state suffers as a result.
Right, and their argument about limiting funding for anything is just a specious argument to begin with, because one of the things, and although they hate Joe Biden, one of the things Joe Biden showed was that if you're in economic slowdown, what the government should be doing is putting more money into the economy so that people, are getting paid higher or getting wages, then that way they are going to spend more money in the community. And when these clowns in Frankfurt say that, we have all this money, but we're not going to use all of it because we're going to be fiscally responsible, my first question would be, what's happening to the money if you're not using it? And that just seems like there's a pool of money there. Someone is going to be dipping into their pockets or whatever. But the other part is that they know that their constituents are facing economic problems. They know that the cost of health care is going up, the cost of food is going up, the cost of life in general has risen. But the things that they can do to stimulate the economy, they're not going to do because of this. I don't know what they're doing why their logic is that. Oh, I know what their logic is. Andy Bashir wants it, so they're going to vote against it because they're Republicans. That's the whole thing. Because
and he's running for president, so anything they can do to cut his legs off from under him, they're going to do.
But that won't matter because no one's going to be paying attention to the Kentucky political situation if Andy Barr is running for president. Because
Andy Bashir,
right? I get my Andys confused. They should change. One of them should change their name. But if you look at when you talk about running for president, when Tim Walz was named as vice president, I didn't look at his record. I don't know what he did in Minnesota. I have no idea if he was a good or bad governor. I'm just going by the word that people are saying about it. And I'm sure there were lots of stories on what the Minnesota economy did. But giving Andy Bashir credit, the Kentucky is in better shape now than it was when who's the previous governor? Matt Bevin?
Yes.
Kentucky's better off now under Andy Bashir than it was under Matt Bevin.
He saved a lot of lives during the pandemic.
Right, yeah.
We were surrounded by Republican governors, states, and they lost a lot more lives.
Well, we had the idiot Matt Bevin who sent his children off to measles parties because, I don't know why. He wouldn't get his kids vaccinated, but he intentionally put them in situations where they would get the measles, and I don't understand that.
His adopted son has been in the news too.
Yeah, that's just there's an ugly family situation going on there. But Bevin's gone, but Bevin is a Republican, and now there are other Republicans who are trying to essentially out Bevin, and they're trying to out Trump, and Daniel Cameron, which shocks me. This is a black guy who's he's a black guy running against DEI.
Clarence Thomas. Yeah, that's the one I always think of.
Clarence was that was George Bush the first's biggest. I won't say error, but it was the most egregious bit of cynicism because he was filling Clarence Thomas to replace Thurgood Marshall, who was a champion of civil rights, who was one of the great figures in American history. It was Black History Month last month for everyone who doesn't know that. But, Thurgood Marshall was Black history. And George Bush the first, in his just total move of cynicism, wanted to put a black guy in the black guy's seat, and he found the most incompetent black guy he could find. I can't say anything good about Clarence Thomas because he's corrupt. He's been bought by billionaires, and he has done more damage to civil rights than any. He's probably the worst Supreme Court justice of all time, and he should be impeached, and he should be in jail. But he's not going to be impeached. He's not going to be put in jail. And I believe that when he resigns, he's going to resign because someone's going to pay him a lot of money to resign before Trump is out of office, so they can put another Clarence Thomas clone in for a 40-year-old Clarence Thomas clone, and will be in office for another 40 years.
Daniel Cameron.
That's a possibility.
Right.
That is a possibility. So,
also, I just wanted to mention when we were talking about the budget. So Jason Bailey also talked that he argued that lawmakers are holding down spending to meet fiscal triggers to be able to again lower the state's income tax rate. So you've got a budget that's austere and harms Kentuckians, and then they want to lower the state's income tax rate even further. It doesn't make any sense, Jesse.
Well, I'm going to be, as I'm always, very cynical about this, but they think the people of Kentucky are morons. They really do. They think that the people in this state are too stupid to realize that the things they are doing are hurting them more than the benefits that they allegedly are going to get. Because, we've been talking about this for months, where when you cut the state budget, you're going to be cutting funds for education. You're going to be cutting funds for health. You're going to be cutting funds for emergencies. Plus, you've got the federal government that's also cutting everything. So if you're poor now, you're worse off than you were at the beginning of the Trump term. I believe that. Things were better under Biden, no matter what Trump says, no matter how much in his State of the Union address he pretends that things are great, because things are not great. But it's his shtick. That's what he does. He just says that Trump's. If you want to know the essence of a Trump speech, just think of the line, "Who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes?" Because that's everything he says is a lie.
Right.
He's going to he's well, anyway.
I'm going to jump in and also highlight another Kentucky Republican. Our Secretary of State is, we've been sued. Kentucky has been sued by the Department of Justice to release sensitive voter registration data, such as driver's license and social security numbers. And he, Secretary of State Michael Adams, Republican, says he would not voluntarily commit a data breach of Kentuckians' private information without a court order. So the DOJ is now suing 29 states and D.C. for the information, which it has said it would use to ensure clean voting rolls in the states. What do you think about that?
Well, there's this whole thought that we're going to prevent people from voting twice, or having people vote illegally, or having immigrants vote when they can't vote. But if you look at the voter fraud numbers, the numbers are minuscule. It's like maybe 100 at most. In a big election, they've had maybe 100 complaints of voter fraud, and very few of those have panned out to be real fraud. And when they do pan out to be real fraud, it's a Republican doing it. So, that's just what they're doing is they're getting your information. It's not about making sure that people can vote legally. It's about taking people off the voting rolls, because we've talked about the federal bill that will what's the SAVE Act.
Yes.
That's going to make it so that if your name isn't what matches your birth certificate, you're not going to be allowed to vote, which that's happening. What was it? Where is that happening? Oh, well, anyway, that's going through the process. I think it's in the House. It's either in the House or Senate now. It hasn't been approved. But the essence of that is that if you get married, if you're a woman and you get married and you take your husband's name is not the name on your birth certificate. So you can go to the poll thinking you can vote, and you'll get there and they'll say, no, you can't vote. Your names don't match. And this is just about voter suppression, because they know that in the next midterm election, the Republicans are going to lose. That's kind of obvious. So the way to prevent a loss is to get people off the polls. Get the people who you don't want voting off the polls. And this has been pretty prevalent in American history, where if you look at election day voting, going to a minority neighborhood, it takes hours to get through the line, because the lines just go for miles. Go into a white neighborhood, you just walk in and walk out. You vote and you come out, and that's it. And they know that's going to happen.
Right. And any policy that increases the cost, time, or complexity of registering tends to disproportionately affect voters who already face structural barriers. Mm-hmm. So, I read that it's not just married women who have changed their names. It's voters of color. It's younger voters. It's naturalized citizens. It's low-income voters. It's older voters. It's voters with disabilities. It's unhoused voters. It's Native American voters, rural voters, and trans Americans who have changed their names.
And if you think this isn't going to happen, there was a story out of Kansas this week where they passed a law that would not allow trans people to have driver's license.
Right.
That it was like their names didn't match on the driver's license, so they had to get their birth names on the driver's license. And they just took that away from people in Kansas. They just did it. So that's just, you have to look at these other states and see what the precursors are of what's going to happen on the federal level, and that's what they want to happen. And it's not about purging the voter rolls or anything like that in terms of elections. It's about getting your personal information. So what they're trying to get in this data dump that the Justice Department is trying to do against Kentucky, and I think they've sued 4 other states for this. It looks like
Utah,
Oklahoma, West Virginia, and New Jersey.
Right.
But
New Jersey is the only one that has a Democratic governor. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. But I think they've already got other states on their watch.
Yeah. So. But they're going after Republican-led states for sure because they want them under their thumb.
Well, it's not only that. They know that they have sympathizers in the Republican-led states. So that's which makes, got to give credit to Michael Adams. He is protecting our voting data, which you can't do that because this data is going to people like Elon Musk or like Peter Thiel. They're going to use that data to do bad things to you.
They already are.
And they already are. So.
And I wanted to bring up that the Save America Act passed the U.S. House last month, 218 to 213. So now it's in the Senate, focusing on negotiations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, we've got all these distractions going on. We got all these just bad situations on a national and international level. And, honestly, going back to the war, the first thing I thought when I saw that we had bombed Iran was, wow, he really doesn't want the Epstein files in the news. He just wants that off the table altogether, and it's not going to go away. If there's another lull in any news coverage and you see Epstein become prominent again, he's going to bomb something else. It's all a distraction.
Yeah. And plus, he decapitates Iran. Iran's, he basically kills the leader, the supreme leader. But there's absolutely no plan for what comes next, and the war is going to last a long time. And a lot of U.S. military are going to die.
And the thing too, and we've said this before, they're coming from Fort Campbell. The 101st Airborne Division is based in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. So this isn't this distraction that people in Kentucky don't have to worry about this because it's not going to affect them. That's wrong, because that's where the soldiers are coming from. They're going to come in this state, or they're already in this state, and they're going to be sent to overseas to keep a corrupt pedophile out of jail. That's what it comes down to. He's using the military to keep out of jail, or just to keep a distraction going. And they're doing this thing about the elections where the voter rolls, they're trying to get that so they can limit the vote, so they can stay in power.
And he keeps talking about a third term or more.
Right, and his followers are talking about the third term as well, even though that violates the Constitution. But, he uses the Constitution to wipe his ass after he goes to the bathroom. That's what Donald Trump believes in. So we've got lots of troubles, and it's not going to get any better any sooner.
I will mention, we follow Attica Scott, who has a really good Substack presence now, and former state legislator. She brought up some black women leaders from the South. We went from Black History Month last month to Women's History Month this month. And so she highlights four black women from the South. I want to bring them up because we don't get this in our history books at all. So the first was Anna Mack Clark. She was a pioneer in military leadership and in ending segregation on military bases. And so she was the first African American woman to command an all-white unit. And then she also led to the release of a statement in February 1944, which ended segregation and discriminatory practices on military bases. Alice Allison Dunnigan was born in Logan County in 1906. She broke through segregation-era barriers, becoming the first African-American woman granted White House press credentials and the first black woman member of Congress's press gallery. And then you've got Dr. Grace Marilyn James. She was a practicing pediatrician in Louisville when hospitals in Louisville were racially segregated by law. In 1953, Dr. James was one of the first two African-American women on the faculty at a Southern medical school. And then lastly, Alberta Odell Jones was a trailblazing attorney who was born in Kentucky. She graduated at the top of her class from the newly integrated U of L and then Howard University School of Law. In 1959, she became one of the first black women admitted to the Kentucky bar, and in 1965, she became Louisville's first woman prosecutor. She also helped to educate and register black voters, and she negotiated a contract for boxer Cassius Clay, her neighbor, who had become Muhammad Ali. Now, sadly, on August 5th, 1965, her 34-year-old body, was found floating in the Ohio River near Fontaine Ferry Park. So, racism, sexism continue to this day, but it really is important to lift up black women in particular that do not make our history books.
I'm kind of surprised that didn't list Georgia Powers. I don't know if we remember that name, because she was like the first black person to be in the Kentucky State Senate.
Right.
And she was a big champion of civil rights. I think I remember that she actually knew Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. She was, like I said, she's heavily in civil rights. She spent 21 years in office. She put all kinds of civil rights legislation in and got it passed. So there are, and this is like, that is our Black History lesson delayed 2 days. But these are some of the famous people who have, who are shaping this state and doing things to make lives better. But they don't get noticed.
No.
They're just like, the names don't mean anything to anyone other than people who know about them and who understand, who have benefited from their work or who have followed them in their footsteps.
And I want to mention someone for whom I have a great deal of respect. Kentucky public interest lawyer John Rosenberg has been awarded the American Bar Association's highest honor, the ABA Medal, for exceptionally distinguished service to the cause of American jurisprudence. And John was a Holocaust survivor. And he founded the nonprofit Appalachian Research and Defense Fund, or called Apple Red, in 1970 to provide free legal assistance to low-income Kentuckians in civil matters such as family law, domestic violence, workplace rights, consumer protection, and housing. And he moved with his wife to Prestonsburg, Kentucky. Neither of them were from Kentucky. So the quote goes, "From escaping the Nazis and the Holocaust to serving in the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division and prosecuting the Ku Klux Klan to founding Apple Red Legal Aid in Kentucky, John Rosenberg has dedicated his life to fairness and equity. His commitment to access to justice and the rule of law has helped lay the foundation to make justice a reality for all," said ABA President Michelle Benke. I wish that justice were a reality for all, but he is a beautiful human being, and he has modeled, justice and equity in everything that he's done. And it's been a real honor to get to know John Rosenberg.
Right, and he's in his 90s, I think, in his 90s, and still around.
94,
so
something like
it's had a very long life, very interesting life, and has he's seen the horrors of what people can do, and he did all he could to make sure that doesn't happen here, which is something we have to keep reminding ourselves of because we are in dangerous times these days.
Yeah. And can I mention some of the things that I've been doing with the
Sure.
Community Defense Network? So I've been really impressed with how organized the Louisville Surge is, showing up for racial justice. And I've talked about them before, but I just want to continue to sort of to tell you what I've been doing, because we are growing our numbers in the Community Defense Network locally. More immigrant serving communities and schools and faith-based institutions are reaching out to us so that the white people can show up and be on the lookout for ICE and delay ICE and call the hotline, so that the people that are being served with anything from immigration law to prenatal health status to preschool to after-school activities, so that the services continue to be provided and the people are safe. Last week, I walked 9 boys from school down the street to an aftercare facility. And honestly, we're going to modify that because the boys basically said it was embarrassing to them, and I don't blame them. I mean, these 2 middle-aged white women with these vests and yellow caps, walking them down the street as if they're children. They are children, but, we're going to modify that. But safety is really important, and defending our neighbors is critical. And as we build trust in the community, we're getting more and more requests for accompaniments. So if you want to take action, L-Surge is really organized. You can do a number of things, from showing up at events to provide accompaniment. You can take flyers with the hotline number, which again is 502-830-9398. It's bilingual in Spanish and English. I walked about an hour and a half down in the south end of Louisville, going door to door at apartment complexes, and everyone was really appreciative that we were coming and giving them this information. Very grateful. It feels really good to do. So there's a lot to do today. Actually, at 5, I believe, is a rally against the Iran war downtown, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of those. So you can show up for rallies, you can do this community defense work, you can make your calls on 5 Calls app, continue to be calling your state legislators about this terrible draconian budget and terrible legislation against our environment and workers' protection and all the things.
So you've been talking about all the things that are going on in the neighborhood, and that's, those are really important things to do. But there's also something else going on in the neighborhood, and this is like in the weird world now. There's a documentary on HBO about, it's called Murder in Glitterball City, and it is about our neighborhood. And it's really, there are varying opinions on how it represents us.
Yeah.
I personally think that it represents us as a bunch of crazy people.
Yeah.
And, it
disparages our neighborhood
and
our city.
It's like...
And meanwhile, by the way, I'm going to interrupt for a second. Old Louisville was just named the city's friendliest neighborhood.
No, of course it is. We're all friendly.
It's so friendly. All right, go ahead.
But this documentary...
Yeah, this isn't about friendliness.
Let's go. The premise of the documentary is that there was a murder in... around the block from us.
Yes.
It's literally around the block from where I live. And this happened years ago. It's like, I think the year we moved to Louisville from Europe. And there were 2 gay guys living on 4th Street. They killed a guy. There's only way to describe it. They got really high, had this weird sex thing, got really high, stabbed this guy to death, broke his bones to fit him into a container, and buried him in their basement. And it's like, okay, that's crazy. And so they turned on each other because they had a lovers' quarrel, and each of them said, well, they killed that the other one killed this guy, but they were both involved in it because they worked together to get rid of the body. I'm not going to say what the outcome of the case is, but it's pretty absurd. But the thing that got me most about it was that pretty much almost everybody they interviewed just came across as being insane, or well, they would say eccentric, because it was just a very weird documentary. It's 2 parts. Again, it's on HBO, and it's really it's also the second movie that's taken place in this neighborhood, but this is a documentary. This is real. The other movie that took place in the neighborhood was the movie that they shot at my house with when Ethan Hawke was here.
Right.
So, Louisville is definitely like a cinematic place, but if you watch Murder in Glitterball City, you'll think, okay, I don't want to go there because those people are nuts. And yes, the people are weird, but I don't think that represents us very well. But it's
interesting too, because David Dominy, the guy that wrote about this, he also has a pretty thriving tour business here in Old Louisville. So I think tourism, if anything, has increased.
Yeah, and his focus in the tourism is the ghost tour of Louisville.
That's one of the foci.
One of the things he does. But he writes books about ghosts in Louisville and about the murder in Louisville and the house.
The Witch's Tree.
Yeah, the Witch's Tree. It's on the corner of 6th and Park. And, there is this belief that Old Louisville is the most haunted part of the country. And, we've heard stories about a ghost in our house and supposedly up on the 3rd floor.
Which is where we're recording this podcast.
Yes,
right
so the ghost is probably hovering over us right now. But, this is the kind of stuff that it's good to see that the city is getting noted and that people are finding interest in it. But I really think this documentary it does make us look weird.
And it's very sensationalist.
It's not. Well, the killers, of course, they're crazy and they're killers, but the people that they interviewed just came across as eccentric. The old term they used to use. So it's worth seeing if you want to know. And what the other thing? Okay, here's what really bothers me about since I'm on a roll. The murder took place on 4th Street. But most of the shots are of Belgravia Court, which is where I live, and of St. James Court, which is around the corner from me. And it's like, okay, we're a block from where it is, but the scenes are all showing our houses here when it's a different house on a different block. And I'm sure the reason they did it was because
yours is more grandiose.
Yeah, it's a more interesting place to look. It really is a nice looking neighborhood. So
4th Street is nice too. To our neighbors.
4th Street is nice, but
it's not Belgravia.
It's a completely different thing. And if you're ever watching that documentary, just also be aware of that. These are the places where, when they do the St. James Art Fair in October, all of these areas are consumed with artists. Just like from all over the country. It's the biggest art fair in the country.
It's one of the biggest art fairs in the country.
No, I think it was shown as the biggest.
I don't think so.
Okay, well, it's definitely one of the biggest, but it is a very high-profile art show, and the place that they showed in this documentary, that's where the art fair takes place. So just something to consider watching if you ever get a chance. Murder in Glitterball City. I'll post the trailer for it on this on the entry we have on the podcast.
Yeah.
And
you wanted to talk about Mish Mish. You had such a nice meal with your wife and your son and your daughter-in-law.
Yeah, Mish Mish is a Mediterranean restaurant in NuLu. It's up on Market Street, north of the city. The northern part of the city. And so it's the kind of place where if you're I think it's unusual for Louisville because it's the kind of place where you have to make reservations like months in advance in order to get a seating. And we were there on a Saturday night, and the place was packed. There were people constantly coming in asking if there were places that they could eat, but the place was packed and it's been booked for months. And I think we got made our booking in December, and we got the seat in February. So anyway, but it was worth the wait because the food was delicious. I'm now on a vegan diet, so I had to, at the beginning of the meal, just say, look, I'm vegan. Are there things here that I can do? And we did one of these tasting menus kind of things where it's almost like having tapas. And everything was excellent. I really recommend it. So if you're in Louisville and coming in a couple of months, make a reservation for Mish Mish, because it's like I think it was a James Beard Award finalist this year, and it's really a small space, it struck me as being a small space, and I was wondering if they were thinking of expanding, because if their like reservation system is like extended until months in advance, then that means that the demand is there. They can bring in more people if they have a bigger space, but maybe they're happy with the way that is. But service was great, food was great. It was just a very nice evening. So I don't get out very much because I'm an old person, but it was worth it.
He walks about 8 miles a day, so he does get out.
Yeah, I try walking 5 miles a day, but I can't today because it's raining, and I couldn't this week because I did it twice this week, but I just couldn't. Today it's raining. Other days it's been like, if it's below 50 degrees, I'm not going outside. I just am very sensitive to cold. So when the spring comes around, I'll be back out trying to do my 5-mile walks. I'm actually learning a lot about the city in general because I'm walking all over the place. I'll walk like just down to the university, or I'll walk up to downtown. This is a pet peeve of mine. So I'm now getting into like the weeds here, but I don't understand why they call downtown when it's the northernmost part of the city, because that to me means uptown. But that's just my little quirk.
You Yankee, you.
Yeah,
Brooklyn.
Downtown. If I'm thinking downtown, I'm thinking Manhattan. Mm-hmm. That's like, downtown. There's an uptown, there's a downtown. Mm-hmm. We know what that is. Louisville downtown is, I guess, the city center, when it's actually uptown, because that's where the city center is. So that's the disadvantage of having been a journalist for all these years. I'm very precise on language. Anyway, so there are good things happening. Go to Mish Mish, watch the dumb documentary. It'll like be a good just way to pass the day and get distracted, because I think we need more distractions now, given the how bad things are. There has to be something where we can just say, okay, I'm not dealing with politics.
Go out in nature. That always.
Yeah, you're out at Bernheim
all the time,
still?
And things are popping up. My crocuses.
Crocus? I don't know.
Are blooming right now, and that makes me so happy. And the snowdrops, and so get outside and watch spring start to emerge. It's really fascinating. I did go up to the top of Iroquois Park last week, and I saw the woodcocks, and the American woodcock is a really interesting bird. There's like all kinds of videos on their dances, like to Michael Jackson and other popular songs, but they're really fun to watch and listen to just after sunset. Go check them out. So lots to do, lots of arts events. Spring is coming.
Yeah. Oh, we also missed the big astronomical event.
I was there.
You saw it?
Yes. Well, we went to Blackacre Nature Reserve, and I helped out with Dark Skies Kentucky. It had a really good booth talking to people about the importance of turning your lights off so that we don't have as much light pollution, and migratory animals aren't messed up by all the light. So we went out and we could see Jupiter. We were supposed to see like a bunch of planets all on the ecliptic line. but the cloud cover was not good. So we did see Jupiter though, and there were really cool telescopes, and a ton of people showed up with their families. So it was a little disappointing that they didn't see more though.
Yeah, and I was really looking forward to it. But again, this happened this past weekend when we were out at the restaurant, and they had said that there was this configuration in the sky where it looked like a smiley face because the moon was a crescent and above it were the planets Venus and Jupiter, and they formed a smiley face. But we were cloud covered, and it was drizzling, so we didn't get to see that.
The moon was not a crescent. Actually, it was almost full that night. So, but anyway, we did have cloud cover, and then it started to rain on us. But people, for a while were really excited to be outdoors.
Yeah, and
looking at something cool.
One of these days I'll actually get on a telescope and see Jupiter on a telescope, because that's really cool.
So Dark Skies Kentucky, check them out. They're going to start a new newsletter. And also the Astronomical Society of Kentucky or Louisville, they do a lot of stuff. They bring their telescopes, and they want everyone to come and look through them. I've seen Saturn, which is really cool. I've seen Jupiter, which is super cool. So stay tuned for more of those events also.
Yeah. So I think we're going to wrap this up now, because we've covered a lot of space here, and just encourage people to, pay attention to what's going on. Be sure you can vote, and look for
ways to
relief.
be of service,
yes,
as relief too.
Yeah, just look for ways to help yourself and help others. Yeah. We will add links to the various things we've talked about in our posting on this, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks, unless you have anything more to say.
No, that's good. Y'all take care.
Yeah, take care. So long. Our closing music is by John Chamberlain.